A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. Eva's voice came over the comm. "Captain, you should see this." On the view screen, a coded transmission flickered to life. It was Admiral Caldwell. His image was distorted, but his sneer was clear. "You think your puny coalition can stand? One by one, your allies will fall. Humanity will learn what it means to face true power." Mark's jaw clenched. "Admiral, you fear us because you know you cannot win." Caldwell laughed, the sound cruel and echoing. "We will see, human. We will see." Then the feed cut off. Mark stood quietly. The threat was direct, a challenge to everything they had built. But in his chest, a fierce pride burned. "Tomorrow," he whispered, "we show him what unity can do." And as the Horizon's engines hummed into readiness, the coalition prepared to light the fires of rebellion across the stars. Into the lion's den before dawn's first light, the Horizon slipped out of the orbital hangar on stealth drive. Captain Mark Hale stood at the viewport as the ship coasted toward the Orion jump gate. The massive ring loomed ahead, its golden arches bristling with turrets and sensor arrays. Beyond it, the Armada's supply lines pulsed like a heartbeat. In the strike bay, Eva Ross and 5 stealth bomber pilots checked their gear. Each was cloaked in a light stealth suit, their faces set with determination. Leo Grant joined them, carrying data modules that mapped the gate's defenses. "Remember," Mark's voice crackled over their comlinks, "we slip in, disable the shield emitters, and get out. No heroics, just a clean strike." The pilots nodded. Riley Ortiz monitored the Horizon's power levels from engineering. Tom May hovered nearby, ready to reroute extra energy the moment the stealth drive engaged. At Mark's command, the Horizon slowed to a crawl. Within transmission shadows, the ship's stealth field shimmered and then vanished from all scanners. The Armada's outer patrols drifted past, unaware of the human vessel inches away. "Bombers launched," Eva whispered as small fighters drifted out of the bay and fell toward the gate. Horizon powered down its engines, blending into the void. Above, the jump gate, the 5 bombers slipped through gaps in the turret fire. The first bomber, piloted by Lieutenant Mira Shaw, dropped a directional EMP charge on the northern emitter. A pulse of blue light swept across the arch, and 1/4 of the shields winked out. "Shield 1 down," Mira reported. Next, Lieutenant Aaron Bell navigated through a lattice of energy beams, his bomber's stealth field flickering under fire. He dropped his charge on the eastern emitter. Sparks and crackles ran along the gate's supports. "2 down," Aaron said, voice tense. But on the third run, Lieutenant Dana Cruz nearly collided with a guard frigate. Heavy turbo laser fire scored her bomber's hull. She spiraled out of control, her charge falling harmlessly into space. "Dana down!" Eva shouted. "We lost her." Mark's heart clenched. "Stay on mission. Spare no time for rescue." Leo's voice cut in. "Captain, 1 emitter left, but the gate is going dark in 3 minutes." Riley's tone was urgent. "We need to hurry or the main fleet can't jump through." Mark nodded. "Eva, take the last charge yourself." Eva's eyes shone with resolve. She vaulted into her bomber and barreled toward the southern emitter. Warning beams lanced around her, but she weaved through them. At the last second, she dropped the EMP charge and banked hard, the blast burning past her cockpit. "Emitter 3 disabled," Eva cheered. Behind her, the gate's turrets fell silent, their targeting computers fried. The shield field vanished. In a ripple of light. "Fleet jump ready," Leo confirmed. "They're coming through now." On cue, a line of Allied ships blinked into real space on the far side of the gate. Andari cruisers, Tovan destroyers, Mirani frigates, and the Horizon itself. They streamed forward, weapons hot, toward the surprised Armada fleet. But as the coalition advanced, a bright beam traced through space and struck the Horizon's stern. The ship shuddered violently. "Hit!" Tom shouted over the comm. "We've got a breach in engineering." Riley's voice quavered. "Reactor coolant leaking." Mark steadied himself on the console. "Status?" Eva replied. "We're taking fire from the command frigates. They knew this was coming." Leo's face turned pale. Admiral Caldwell's personal guardship is here. They locked us on first. Mark took a breath. Hold the line. Riley, isolate the leak. Tom, reroute. Power from non-essentials to life support. Below, alarms blared. Sparks flew across bulkheads, but above, the Coalition fleet pressed the attack, laying down barrages of torpedoes and ion salvos. In the chaos, Mark saw something he never thought possible. The Armada's ships breaking. Formation, confused by the sudden onslaught. A battered dreadnought drifted sideways as its shields collapsed under combined fire. Mark's eyes burned with renewed hope. They're faltering. Push forward. Eva's voice cracked, with excitement and fear. All fighters engage. As fighters swarmed the enemy fleet, the horizon limped forward, ready to strike again. Even wounded, the little ship had sparked a turning tide, and in the heart of the Orion sector, the galaxy held its breath, watching a new legend unfold. Breaching the heart, the damaged horizon hung at the rear of the charging Coalition fleet as they neared the Armada's central defense ring. Beyond the shattered Orion Gate lay the heart of the Armada's territory, a cluster of fortified outposts, orbiting the star Vespra. From there, enemy supply lines fed the entire fleet. If they could take Vespra Station, the Armada's power would crumble. Captain Mark Hale watched the glittering fortresses loom ahead on the bridge's holomap. This is it, he said. We go in hard and fast, no faltering. Ava Ross tightened her grip on the comm console. Our fighters are in position. Bombers standing by for the final strike. Leo Grant keyed coordinates for the drop-in point. 5 seconds to sublight. Engagement. Around them, the Coalition ships split into attack squadrons. Andari cruisers rained plasma on the outer turrets. Tovan destroyers laced the shield generators with ion pulses. Mirani frigates darted in to finish off disabled vessels. The horizon lurched as secondary blasts rocked the hull. Sparks lit engineerings. Corridors and Riley Ortiz's voice crackled over the channel. Hull breaches on decks 3 and 4 were holding, but we'll need repairs once we're through this. Mark didn't flinch. Keep us alive. We're almost at the station. Above them, the vast ring of Vespra Station filled the viewport. Its battlements bristled with heavy cannons, and massive shield pylons glowed with energy. A deafening chorus of targeting locks and lasers met the Coalition advance. Incoming fighter swarms, Eva warned. They're defending the station's flanks. Lieutenant Mira Shaw's bomber squadron dove through the glare of gunfire. Their EMP charges fell in perfect sequence onto the shield pylons. One by one, the shields winked out, leaving large gaps shimmering against the black sky. Shields down 50%, Mira reported. Push through, Mark ordered. Horizon's engines flared as the ship raced toward station's docking arms. Coalition vessels poured through the gaps. Explosions blossomed along the station's hull as fighters and fighters swarmed the decks. Inside the station's central hub, Admiral Caldwell barked orders. His violet eyes flashed with rage. Seal the inner hangars. Destroy the human invaders. But on the battle-scarred decks, soldiers from half a dozen allied races pressed forward. They fought side by side in narrow corridors. Tovan heavy infantry blasted through doors with magnetic charges. Andari engineers hacked into the station's systems to open locked doors. Human Marines led the charge, their courage shining even under heavy fire. On the Horizon's bridge, Leo's holo display lit up with boarding team icons. Alpha team is aboard the station. They're heading for the main control core. Mark's voice was calm steel. Guide them in. Eva, prepare to cover the exit. Down below, human Marines reached the control core's anti-gravity chamber. Resistance was fierce. Armada guards in power armor fought tooth and nail. But the boarding party held their ground, using precise strikes and borrowed weapons. Back on the horizon, Riley cheered. The station's power grid is destabilizing. Now, Mark shouted. Fire all torpedoes at the station's power conduits. A salvo of fusion torpedoes streaked out, striking the station's hull with thunderous force. The platform shuddered violently, lights flickering as the core overloaded. Inside the control core, Admiral Caldwell watched in horror as readouts went red. Shields failing. Evacuate the station. But it was too late. With a final roar, the station's core erupted in a wave of light and debris. On the horizon, the bridge rocked as fragments of the station rained past. Through the viewport, the crew watched the fortress collapse. Mark exhaled. His green eyes shone with quiet triumph. "We did it," he said softly. Eva leaned back, exhausted but smiling. "Vespera station is ours. The Armada's supply lines are cut." Outside, the Coalition fleet cheered in unison. The heart of the Armada lay in ruins, its power broken. And as the Horizon's engines primed for the jump home, Mark knew the final victory was within reach, if they could survive the last reckoning to come. Commander John Reeves hunched over the holographic display in Earth's Space Command Center, watching the stream of incoming ship manifests change in real time. The usual hum of trade liners, transport freighters, and passenger shuttles gave way to a sudden silence. Every blinking light on the grid went dark at once. Earth had activated the long-planned lockdown of all spaceways. John felt a familiar thrill of triumph. He had helped design the blockade system after decades of empire. Pressure on Earth's borders. Now it was live. He pressed a console key and addressed the room. "Lockdown confirmed," he said. "All transits denied. No ships in, no ships out." A murmur ran through the officers. For years, the Galactic Empire had treated Earth like a minor trading post, acceptable so long as human technology remained strictly regulated. Now, under the leadership of President Elena Vargas, Earth would show its strength. Meanwhile, on the asteroid station Ares 7, trader Maya Patel finished securing her cargo canisters when her private comm link blinked. She tapped it open, revealing John's gruff face. "Maya," he said, voice low. "Stand by. We're initiating the blockade." She blinked. "Commander, my freighter is in the middle of docking. I can't divert." "Stand down. You'll have clearance in 6 hours." She shut off the link and watched the airlock slide, closed on the freighter beside hers. A cold dread crept over her chest. On any normal day, that station lane was crowded with Earthbound ships. Now the silence was absolute. Back at Space Command, John turned to his second-in-command, Captain Li Zhao. "Signal the ground defenses to full alert. I want scanners probing for any unauthorized warp signatures." Li tapped a few controls. "Understood. Imperial monitoring ships have just appeared on long-range sensors. 4 cruisers and a data collector. They're holding at the edge of the blockade." John's jaw tightened. "They'll test it, they always do. Far beyond Earth's orbit, in the calm void between stars, Admiral Torvash of the Galactic Empire drifted in his flagship, the Obsidian Wraith. He studied the massive orbital barrier on his tactical display with growing irritation. Protocols forbade hostile action against Earth, but ignoring their defiance would undermine Imperial authority across dozens of systems. Torvash tapped his holocom. "Signal Earth Command. This blockade violates the Treaty of Sidus. Remove your barrier or prepare to face consequences." The reply came back in the clear Imperial voice. "Negative. Earth Command declines. End of transmission." Torvash exhaled. "Very well. Activate decoy probe and scan for weak points in their shield matrix. I want this resolved before the newswave reaches high command." On Ares 7, Maya slipped into the station's observation deck. Through the thick viewport, she saw the glittering disk of Earth on the horizon, flanked by 4 silent dark shapes. The blockade generators, dozens of massive nodes, glowed with bluish energy. No ship could slip past that field without being shredded. She shivered, pressing her forehead to the cool glass. Business was business, but she had always traded freely across the stars. Now Earth and the Empire were on a collision course, and ordinary traders like her were caught in the middle. A siren wailed through the station. Blue warning lights pulsed. Maya raced back to her freighter's cockpit. As she keyed the engines, a voice crackled over comm. "All non-essential crafts, evacuate the station immediately. Military lockdown in effect." She jabbed the throttle and felt the ship lurch forward. Through the viewport, she saw armored transports disgorge Marines onto the docking bay. The station's automated cranes began retracting loading arms. Ares 7 was about to go dark. High above, the Obsidian Wraith launched its decoy probe. The tiny sphere shimmered as it phased through the blockade, but the nodes detected and instantly vaporized it. A blip on the Empire's sensors marked its destruction. "Shield integrity holds," reported the engineer. "Planetary blockade is unbreachable." Torvash's face darkened. "Then we must negotiate from a position of strength. Carman, assemble a landing party. We'll show Earth the price of defiance." Lieutenant Carman bowed. "Yes, Admiral." Back on Earth, President Vargas watched the same sensor feeds from her private command suite. She stood beside John, silent satisfaction in her posture as the Imperial ships loomed. The blockade was designed to hold them off, but she knew diplomacy would follow. She turned to John. "Have Ambassador Reyes prep the comm channel," she ordered. "I want to speak directly to Torvash." John nodded. "On it, ma'am. But our forces are ready if he refuses." Up on the station, Maya's freighter cleared the final docking bay and shot into the void. She set a course for Mars Station, hoping to find cargo work there. As her ship passed the blockade line, the massive energy field rippled around it, but sensors identified her as friendly. The cocoon of light collapsed and Maya sailed on. She exhaled and activated her private log. Maya Patel, logs timestamped. Earth's blockade activated. Empire fleet en route. Civilian traffic being diverted. Situation tense but stable, at least for now. The message ended. She stared out at the distant Earth, a blue gem surrounded by silent guardians. Somewhere on the far side, Empire Marines readied their ships. Maya felt a knot of dread. This was no longer just politics or trade. War might be coming. On Earth, President Vargas's face appeared in Torvash's hololink. Her expression was calm but unyielding. "Admiral Torvash," she said, voice firm. "Earth will not bow to Imperial overreach. Remove your fleet or risk escalation." Torvash inclined his head, thinly masking his anger. "You leave me no choice." He severed the connection. Around him, the Obsidian Wraith's bridge hummed with renewed purpose. In that moment, two worlds stood on the brink, Earth and the Empire, locked in silent war before a single shot was fired. And all across the stars, traitors like Maya wondered which path they would be forced to choose. The next morning on Luna Base, Captain Li Jiao paced the hangar's polished floor as fighter pilots ran through final checks on their sleek interceptors. The pale light from Earth's rising sun spilled through the massive viewports, illuminating rows of grounded ships. "Please stop to watch Lieutenant Raj Singh climb into his cockpit." "Lieutenant," Li called. "Report." Raj tapped his helmet. "All systems green, ma'am. Weapons, shields, engines, ready to engage. Just awaiting your orders." Li nodded. "Stand by. We don't fire unless they make the first move. I want you probing their cruiser's sensors. Find any weakness in their formation." "Understood." Raj grinned. "We'll find their blind spot." Meanwhile, on the Obsidian Wraith, Admiral Torvash summoned his landing party to the central briefing chamber. Holographic displays showed Earth's orbital blockade and the network of defensive platforms surrounding the planet. "This is our moment," Torvash began, voice firm. "Earth believes our hands are tied by treaty. They will listen to a show of force. Ambassador Carman, you will lead negotiations once we secure a foothold on the surface." Lieutenant Carman bowed. "Yes, Admiral. My team is prepped for rapid drop and secure communications." Torvash turned to his tactical officer, Commander Hale. "Deploy the teleport shuttles to the shadow of the dark side. We must land undetected." On the ground at Cape Canaveral, Ambassador Reyes reviewed her briefing with President Vargas. The war room flickered with live feeds of Empire cruisers drifting beyond the blockade. Reyes pointed to a cluster of ships, in a quieter zone. "They're repositioning to the far orbit. That may be where they plan their drop," she said. Vargas pressed a finger to her lips, thoughtful. "Then we'll intercept there. John, scramble your reconnaissance squadron. Lee's fighters can cover them. I want eyes on any surface insertion." John Reeves, standing at Vargas's side, tapped his comlink. "Recon team is ready. Call sign Sparrow. They launch in 5. Back on Ares 7 station, Maya Patel floated in the station's central corridor. Her freighter docked and cargo secured. She overheard 2 Marines discussing the morning's orders. "Intel says Empire drops will hit New Houston Colony." One said, "They aim to seize the ground command and force our leaders to capitulate." Maya's heart raced. New Houston was home to her brother Amit. She ducked into a side corridor and activated her private link. "Amit, are you safe?" she whispered urgently. His anxious face appeared on her screen. "I'm fine, Maya," he said, voice shaking. "But they've closed all city gates, military patrols everywhere." "Don't leave your safe zone," she warned. "I'm heading there now. Stay inside." She powered down the link. Despite her fear, Maya knew she couldn't stay idle. She raced to her ship's airlock and keyed the release. As the outer hatch slid open, she felt the familiar rush of vacuum-simulated corridor air conditioning. She struck a deal with herself. Deliver her cargo to New Houston, check on Amit, then slip back to the civilian lanes. High above Earth, Sparrow 1 slipped past the cruiser line under cover of a sensor disguise. The pilot, Sergeant Elena Cruz, guided her sleek recon shuttle through a narrow gap in the blockade. Below, the planet's surface rotated silently, city lights twinkling on the dawn-lit hemisphere. "Contact," Elena reported. "I see fleet, shuttles in low orbit. Thermal signatures matching the Obsidian's shuttles. They're descending near New Houston." "Copy that," John's voice crackled. "Push closer, but maintain stealth. We need to know if they're armed for assault or hostage-taking." Elena banked the recon at a lower altitude. Through the shuttle's window, she saw 4 black tele-shuttles streaking toward the city's edge. Behind them, Empire Marines in angular power armor braced in open bays. "Shields up," she murmured. "They're armed with plasma rifles, definitely an invasion force." She activated a microtransmitter and began beaming the footage back to Earth Command. On the Obsidian Wraith's bridge, Torvash watched the feed with a cold smile. "They'll see strength and negotiate," he said. "Proceed with the insertion." Moments later, the tele-shuttles phased into existence above New Houston's orbital ring. Below, the city's anti-air turrets sputtered to life, tracking the drop. For the first time since the blockade began, Earth's defenses were about to bite. On Luna, Li Jiao watched the commotion on her holo display. "They're dropping on New Houston," she said. "They expect us to panic. We won't give them that satisfaction." She turned to Raj's squadron striding toward the fighters. "Pilots, this is our chance. Close and fast, disable their shuttles, non-lethal if possible. Rescue any hostages, then fall back." Raj saluted. "We're on it." As Empire shuttles glowed into the twilight sky over New Houston, Lee's fighters roared across the darkness. The blockade had provoked the first real clash, and Earth's finest were ready to meet it head-on. In the tense seconds before battle, every commander, pilot, and trader held their breath. The fate of the peace, and the fragile hope of diplomacy, hinged on what happened next. Over New Houston's skyline, the first Empire tele-shuttle shimmered into view. Its hull crackled with phased energy as it materialized mere kilometers above the city. Below, Earth's anti-air defenses had locked on and opened fire. Bright tracer bolts arced through the dawn sky, but phased shielding on the shuttle absorbed the blasts. Suddenly, Captain Li Jiao's interceptor squadron dove from above. Raj Singh led the charge, his engines roaring as he closed in on the dark shuttle. He took careful aim at its propulsion vents, firing a precision burst that ripped open the hull. The shuttle lurched, flames licking its aft section as explosive decompression blasted it apart. Raj banked hard to avoid debris. "One down," he radioed. 3 to go. On the ground, chaos erupted. Where the first shuttle had dropped, Marines in angular armor rappelled down on energized cables. They formed a tight perimeter around their teleport beacon and began marching toward the city gates. Civilians fled into narrow alleys as plasteel-clad soldiers advanced in disciplined ranks. In the command center beneath New Houston's City Hall, Governor Helen Ortega watched the live feed with pale lips. She leaned over a map table, tracing the enemy's approach. "We need reinforcements at Gate 4, she ordered, "and activate the civilian safe zones. Move residents to the bunkers." Her aide nodded and tapped a holopad. Outside, sirens wailed and automated barriers slid into place, sealing neighborhoods behind heavy blast doors. High above, Sergeant Elena Cruz in Sparrow 1 hovered at the edge of the city's atmosphere, relaying live footage of the invasion to Earth Command. "They're pushing straight for the control center," she reported to John Reeves. "Hostile force looks light, maybe 30 Marines per shuttle." John frowned. "Good, that's manageable. We'll send down our own rapid drop team." He called to Captain Lee. "Lee, deploy 6 of your interceptors with the ground strike pods. Disable their landing craft and cover our dropships." "Understood," Lee replied. Within moments, 6 fighters peeled off into orbital descent corridors, their pods bristling with non-lethal EMP charges. Back in the streets of New Houston, Maya Patel raced through the traffic. Her freighter's hold contained medical supplies, donated by Earth's Relief Corps. She had convinced a convoy escort to let her tag along. Now she wove between armored transports as Marines blasted through barricades ahead. She found Amit crouched behind a concrete barrier, clutching his data pad to his chest. Relief flooded her heart. "I'm here," she whispered, embracing him. "Let's get these supplies to the med station." He nodded, eyes bright with tears. Together they sprinted across the plaza, the ground shaking as nearby buildings shuddered from EMP blasts overhead. In orbit, Lee's interceptors streaked past the remaining teleshuttles. One by one, they released EMP pods that detonated in midair. The phased shields of the shuttles flickered and died. Hull plating sparked as systems shut down. Each shuttle fell like a wounded bird, burning through the atmosphere before crashing harmlessly on the outskirts. "Shuttles down," Lee announced triumphantly. "No more enemy drops." Below, trapped Marines scrambled for cover amid the wreckage. Captain Carmen's landing party activated emergency beams from their suits and called for pickup. But Earth's blockade generators shifted focus, targeting the Marines' own teleporter frequencies. The remaining extraction shuttle fizzled on approach, unable to lock its beam on the survivors. Carman snarled, stamping the ground. His comlink sputtered. "Admiral Torvash, we have casualties, extraction denied." On the Obsidian Wraith, Torvash watched the feed with cold fury. He clenched his fist. "Then send the ground assault fleet," he growled. "Make them pay for this insult." Below in New Houston, the defeated Marines surrendered their weapons under Lee's watchful pilots. Earth troops secured the area, disarming the invaders and ushering them into custody. Civilians cheered as their city forces marched in triumphant order. Governor Ortega stepped out onto the steps of City Hall, her voice booming through portable loudspeakers. "New Houston stands. Earth's fighters have repelled the invaders." The crowd roared in celebration. Maya and Amit joined the others, relief mixing with pride. Maya tapped her log recorder. Maya Patel reporting. "Empire's insertion force defeated. Civilians safe, medical aid en route, situation under control." She switched it off and turned to Amit. "You okay?" He smiled, voice steady. "I've never been prouder of Earth." Back in orbit, Li Zhao and John Reeves watched the scene unfold on the holo display. John placed a hand on Lee's shoulder. "That's one battle won, but the war is just beginning." Lee nodded. "Let them know Earth can fight and that we will not back down." Across the void, Admiral Torvash prepared his next move. Earth had shown its strength and its resolve. Now both sides braced for the conflict to come. Admiral Torvash stood on the bridge of the Obsidian Wraith, staring at the defeat feed from New Houston. Behind him, the remaining Imperial cruisers loomed, their hulls scarred by Earth's blockade pulses. His officers awaited orders in tense silence. Torvash turned to Commander Hale. "They have beaten our insertion force with minimal losses. It's time for decisive action. Prepare the megaton pulse cannons. We will crack their blockade nodes." Hale's eyes widened. "Admiral, those cannons will destroy large areas of orbit. Collateral damage could be severe. Civilian stations, trade lanes." Torvash's voice hardened. "Earth chose this path. They will feel our wrath." He activated the tactical console. "Target every blockade generator within range. Fire on my mark." Below, on Earth's pioneering defense, Platform Titan Station, engineer Casey Novak monitored power outputs as Earth Command issued orders. Casey's fingers danced over the console, rerouting energy reserves to the generators freshly damaged by Empire probes the day before. A soft alarm sounded. Casey frowned and tapped the screen. Incoming transmission. Imperial fleet locking onto our node matrix. She flipped to external view just as 4 blue-white spheres of superheated energy erupted from the Empire's cruisers. The megaton pulse bolts arced across space, impacting the nearest generator. The station shook violently. Sparks flew along the hull, consoles blacked out, and oxygen alarms blared. Casey grabbed a backup helmet and clambered toward the engineering ladder. Station integrity dropping, hull breach likely in Sector 3, she called out. On Earth, President Vargas watched the live damage reports in her private suite. They've started the bombardment, she said, voice tight. She turned to John Reeves beside her. Can we shield them? John studied the readouts. Our secondary arrays can form a limited deflector shield, but only around one node at a time. We'll need to rotate coverage. Vargas nodded. Do it, and send emergency tugs to tow the damaged generators back for repair. At Titan Station, Casey and a small repair crew raced through corridors with sealed doors sliding shut behind them. They reached the damaged node just as another pulse struck. The explosion rocked the platform, hurling Casey against the bulkhead. Dazed, she staggered to her feet and signaled her team. We patch the breach now. Seal that conduit or we lose power across this sector. Water hissed from ruptured pipes. Sparks danced along exposed cables. Her assistant, Marcus, braved the sparks. On it! He closed the hatch and locked it in place. The lights flickered back on. Above, in orbit, Li Zhao's reconnaissance shuttle drifted. Li tapped her comm. John, Titan is under heavy fire. We need interceptors to disrupt those pulse beams. John's voice came back urgent. Li, scramble. All fighters. Use EMP missiles to overload their targeting arrays. Li saluted. She keyed the comm to her pilots. Form up. We've got to give Titan a breather. Moments later, Earth's fighters streaked toward the Empire cruisers. Bright pings of EMP charges blazed across the void. One by one, the cruisers' targeting sensors froze, their pulse cannons misfiring or shutting down entirely. The blockade. Generators pulsed back to full strength. On the Obsidian Wraith's bridge, alarms wailed. Torvash slammed his fist on the console. What is this sabotage? I want those fighters grounded immediately. Commander Hale narrowed his eyes. Admiral, your orders. Resume firing before they can switch the shield support to another node. Torvash hesitated, then nodded. Do it. Below, Casey secured her team around the conduit repair. The hull shivered as the second pulse struck, but the shields held. Through the viewport, she saw the distant glimmer of fighter contrails near the Empire ships. She exhaled relief. Those fighters gave us time, she whispered. Good work, Li Zhao. Meanwhile, on the ground in Washington Central, Ambassador Reyes stood before the United Earth Council's emergency session. Delegates from countless allied worlds filled the glass amphitheater. She stepped up to the podium and tapped her holopad. Esteemed representatives, she began, the Galactic Empire has escalated to orbital bombardment. Earth's defenses have held, but we need your aid. Let this aggression unite us. Across the hall, Delegate Aaron Tull from the Orion Confederation stood. He raised his hand. We condemn the Empire's actions. Our fleets will join Earth's blockade and provide relief convoys. You have our support. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Soon, dozens of allied ambassadors pledged resources, ships, weapons, medical supplies, to shore up Earth's defenses. Back on the Wraith, Torvash watched the Alliance formation signals flash across his display. His lips curled. So they rally others against us. Very well. We will demonstrate Empire might where it truly counts. He turned to Lieutenant Carmen. Prepare the sublight assault fleet. We will strike a world on the Alliance periphery. Make an example. Carmen bowed. Yes, Admiral. On Earth Command, Vargas and John saw the new threat as Alliance ships began to assemble around Titan Station and the blockade line. Vargas straightened. They'll attack somewhere they think it matters. We should anticipate their move. John tapped a map. Their sublight commanders have targeted isolated colony worlds in the Vega system before. I say we reinforce Vega Prime and set a trap. Vargas nodded firmly. Then send the orders. Earth and its allies stand ready. Far above the blockade, the Obsidian Wraith powered its engines. Below, the Alliance fleet formed a protective ring. Two forces braced for the next move, each determined to show the other that on this stage only one would prevail. Reinforcements streamed toward Vega Prime under Earth's black and white flag. Captain Li Jiao led a convoy of 6 heavy frigates and 12 interceptors, while Admiral Vega of the Orion Confederation piloted her silver cruiser into position. Vega Prime's blue-green surface glowed below as supply ships brought munitions and medical teams. On the bridge of Li's flagship, the Aurora, Li studied the tactical map. "They'll arrive here," she said, pointing to a narrow approach corridor between 2 gas giants. "It's a bottleneck. Their sublight fleet can't maneuver easily. There." She nodded at Lieutenant Raj Singh. "Position our frigates in the outer ring. Interceptors stay ready to scramble." Raj adjusted his chair. "Understood, ma'am. I'll keep my squadron on high alert." Far above, the Obsidian Wraith cut its engines and coasted toward the Vega corridor. Admiral Torvash stood at the helm, flanked by Commander Hale. "Our sensors show Earth and Orion ships ahead," Torvash said. "They expect us to take the bait." Hale smirked. "Then we'll strike fast. Our pulse cannons will break their lines before they can form ranks." Below, on Vega Prime's surface, Engineer Casey Novak oversaw the deployment of orbital minefields. Each mine lay dormant until triggered by the Empire's specific energy signature. She wiped sweat from her brow as she activated the final mine. "All set," she reported. "They won't see this coming." On the Aurora, Li tapped her comm. "Mines are live around the corridor. Weapons officers, stand by to initiate remotely once the enemy fleet enters." Moments later, Vega Prime's ground stations detected streaks of light, Empire fighters and corvettes weaving into the corridor. Raj's interceptors streaked up, trailing Earth's blue contrails. They swept through the edge of the enemy formation, forcing small craft to scatter. "Direct hit on one corvette," Raj reported. "Shields down, they're pulling back." But the Empire's main force bore down on the frigates. The Aurora's cannons sent volleys of plasma bolts dancing through space. Several Empire ships answered with megaton beams that scorched the Aurora's port hull. Sparks flew across Li's console. She pressed her lips together. "Damage reports?" "Port shields at 50%, came the reply. "Hull plating, holding." Li nodded. "Keep them off the frigates. Raj, can you take out their beam controls?" "I'll try," Raj said, banking his interceptor. He dove toward the nearest cruiser, firing a rapid burst at its beam turrets. One exploded, in a shower of debris. The cruiser lurched, then turned away. "Nice shot," Li praised. Meanwhile, deep in the shadow of the gas giant, the orbital mine network sprang to life. Blue pulses rippled outward as the mines detected the Empire flagship's energy signature. In an instant, 6 mines detonated around the Obsidian Wraith. The cruiser rocked violently. Torvash staggered, gripping the rail. "Shields failing," cried Commander Hale. On Vega Prime's surface, Casey watched the explosions on her holo display. Relief washed over her. "They fell right into the trap," she said softly. "Good work, team." Above, Luna Base relayed Li's order. "All frigates concentrate fire on the Wraith's bow." The 12 interceptors spiraled in, firing EMP missiles. The flagship's shields flickered and died. For the first time, the Empire vessel was exposed. Torvash's face went pale. "Brace for impact," he ordered. The Aurora locked its heavy cannons onto the Wraith's crippled bow. Li counted down silently. 3, 2, 1. A pair of plasma torpedoes launched in perfect synchrony. They streaked toward the flagship and struck with blinding brilliance. The Obsidian Wraith shuddered and broke its own formation, drifting powerless. Raj's interceptor looped above. "She's disabled," he announced. Li exhaled. "Hold fire," she commanded. "We need prisoners." On Vega Prime's command deck, Ambassador Reyes watched jubilant reports of the flagship's defeat. She tapped her holopad. "Prepare the diplomatic envoy. We can end this war now that their command ship is in our hands. Below, on the Aurora, Lee turned to her crew. Secure the Wraith. Then we'll negotiate terms. Today we proved that Earth and its allies stand as one. Across the void, the disabled Empire ships drifted, hostages to Earth's unity and resolve. The tide of war had shifted, and for the first time, hope glimmered on the horizon of peace. Dawn broke over the battered Vega corridor as repair tugs and medical frigates swarmed around the disabled Obsidian Wraith. Captain Li Jiao stood on the Aurora's command deck, overseeing the prisoner transfer. Through the viewport, she watched Empire officers, shackled in zero-G cuffs, float from the Wraith's docking bay into holding modules. Transport secured, Lee reported to President Vargas, who observed via hololink from Earth Command. Vargas's calm face appeared against a backdrop of Earth's blue marble. Excellent work, Captain. What's the status of their fleet? Lee tapped a controls console. Most cruisers retreated toward protected hyperspace lanes. A dozen corvettes remain in the corridor, but they are uncoordinated without their flagship's directives. We can contain them until they withdraw. Vargas nodded. Good. Prepare to escort any wishing to defect. They may serve as intelligence assets. Below on Vega Prime's surface, engineer Casey Novak oversaw the last mine detonations to clear the corridor. She tapped her comm. All mines deactivated, no stray detonations, corridor is clear for Allied traffic. Across the control room, Ambassador Reyes conferred with Admiral Vega of the Orion Confederation. Vega's visor reflected the holomap of the corridor. This victory is vital, Vega said. It cements our alliance and shows the Empire that unified defense is stronger than solitary power. Reyes smiled. Agreed. And with the Wraith's officers in our custody, we can negotiate a formal ceasefire. Back on the Aurora, Lee received word from her intelligence officer. Commander, we've recovered encrypted logs from the Wraith's core. They reveal the Empire's planned campaign against other Alliance worlds. Lee's eyes narrowed. Transcribe and forward to Vargas. This intel could end the war. She turned to her pilots. Any sign of hostile activity? Lieutenant Raj Singh, monitoring external sensors, shook his head. Nothing. The remaining ships are disengaging and moving at sublight speed for pickup. Lee exhaled in relief. Then her console beeped with a high-priority alert. Captain, unidentified. Fleet approaching the Vega system at jump speed. On screen, she ordered. A new holographic display showed 15 sleek ships materializing at hyperspace coordinates beyond the gas giants, far too agile for Imperial design. Their hulls bore a dark emblem, the Phoenix Alliance, a rebel faction known for guerrilla strikes against both Empire and neutral worlds. A message scrolled across Lee's console. We offer aid. Prepare for docking. Lee hesitated, recalling reports of the Phoenix's unpredictable loyalty. But Ambassador Reyes spoke first, her tone measured. They attacked Empire supply lines during our engagement. If they join us now, they could help secure the remaining Imperial vessels. Vargas's voice crackled in. Proceed with caution. Open a secure channel and request their terms. Lee tapped her comm. This is Captain Li Jiao of the United Earth Orion Coalition. Identify yourselves and state your intentions. The reply was immediate. We are the Phoenix Squadron. We fought the Empire before your blockade began. We seek an alliance to end this conflict swiftly. We pledge our fighters to help contain any remnants of the Wraith's fleet. On the Aurora's deck, pilots exchanged looks. Raj leaned forward. Their maneuvers are precise, better than even our interceptor squadrons. Lee nodded slowly. Deploy docking clamps on their lead cruiser. Grant them temporary clearance within the corridor perimeter, but keep our powers locked on. No surprises. As Phoenix vessels glided alongside the Aurora, docking arms clicked into place. Through external viewports, Lee watched their sharp-edged wings and darkened cockpits. A lone envoy stepped onto the Aurora's airlock platform. Commander Silas. Rin, a tall figure in black flight gear. Inside the conference chamber, Lee greeted Rin. Welcome. We appreciate your support. Rin bowed. Captain Zhao, the Empire underestimated Earth's unity. We share your goal of ending imperial tyranny. Together, we can secure every sector they threaten. Li studied him. Your pilots must follow. Alliance protocols, no civilian casualties, understood? Understood, Rin replied. His eyes glinted. And once the Wraith's remnants are neutralized, we will withdraw. No further claims on your territories. Ambassador Reyes joined the meeting via HoloLink. Your cooperation will be noted in the Alliance Charter. Let us coordinate our strikes. Rin nodded, then turned to Li. We'll begin interdiction runs within the hour. With new allies at her side, Li stepped out onto the Aurora's observation balcony. Around her, Allied ships edged forward in formation. Through the transparent panel, she saw the battered Wraith drifting in the distance, its dark silhouette a testament to their victory. She tapped her comm. All units, stand by for coordinated assault. Let's finish this. In Earth Command, Vargas watched the Alliance mobilize. She pressed her hand to the holoscreen. May this unity hold beyond the battlefield. Below, on Vega Prime, Casey Novak released her grip on the final mind control switch. The corridor lay clear, but her thoughts strayed to home. She whispered, to herself, one more step toward peace. As the combined fleet surged forward, the void between stars filled with determined engines and unified purpose. Earth's blockade had sparked the war, but now with allies at their side, humanity aimed to forge a lasting peace from the wreckage of conflict. A hush fell over the combined fleet, as Vega Corridor's jump lanes glowed with hyperspace trails. Captain Li Jiao stood on the Aurora's deck, watching Phoenix Squadron fighters and Orion frigates take formation around the drifting Obsidian Wraith. Below, the battered flagship's marred hull caught the light of distant stars. Li tapped, her comm. All units hold position, awaiting Admiral Vega's signal. Moments later, Admiral Vega's silver cruiser appeared on every holo display. Her calm voice came through. This is Admiral Vega. We have agreement terms ready for Empire officers aboard the Wraith. Proceed with the handover. Li gestured to Lieutenant Raj Singh. Raj, lead 2 interceptors to escort the Wraith's command shuttles into secure orbit for negotiations. Raj nodded, strapping into his cockpit. On it, ma'am. In the Wraith's docking bay, Commander Silas Rin and Ambassador Reyes met with Admiral Torvash's senior officers under a white flag. Black helmet visors lifted to reveal wary faces. Torvash's second-in-command, Captain Verrill, cleared his throat. We request safe passage for our officers back to Imperial space, on the condition that peace talks begin within 72 hours, Verrill said. Reyes exchanged a glance with Rin before replying. Your terms are acceptable, but only if all hostile actions cease immediately, and Empire ships remain at jump range until talks conclude. Verrill's shoulders sagged. Agreed. I will relay your terms. Back on the Aurora, Li exhaled. They accepted. Send the ceasefire broadcast. Her communications officer keyed the transmission. Across the blockade line and to every Empire vessel within sensor range, a calm voice repeated the terms. No attacks, no defenses, and rendezvous at agreed coordinates for formal talks. Above, Empire cruisers powered down weapons. Shield generators dimmed. Even the remaining corvettes in the corridor floated in place, their crews relieved and anxious. In Earth Command, President Vargas watched the sequence on her holoscreen. She allowed herself a small smile. History in the making, she murmured. On Vega Prime's surface, engineer Casey Novak and her team gathered around a relief monitor. Cheers broke out when they saw the ceasefire. Casey wiped grease from her hands and laughed. We did it. Maya Patel, now serving as a volunteer, medic on Vega Prime, hugged her brother Amit. No more battles for today, she said, relief bright in her eyes. I can't believe how close it came. He grinned. Humanity stood strong and showed the Empire what we're made of. Across the void, on the Obsidian Wraith's bridge, Admiral Torvash stood alone before the viewport. The shattered blockade glowed behind him. He closed his eyes, absorbing the silence. The price of defeat weighed on him, but he knew this was better than endless war. Below, in the Wraith's secure conference room, peace talks began. Ambassador Reyes, Admiral Vega, Commander Rin, and Captain Varel sat around a circular table. Holographic maps of Earth, Orion, and Imperial space hovered above them. Reyes spoke first. We propose a joint committee to revise the Treaty of Citus. Earth will regain trade rights, the Empire will withdraw forces, and all sides will share exploration of new worlds. Vega added, the Alliance offers to mediate. We will oversee demilitarized zones and joint research missions. Varel nodded slowly. And the Empire will lift all blockades. In return, Earth will allow limited Imperial science vessels for cultural exchange. A murmur of agreement filled the room. Pens tapped across digital pads as terms were finalized. On the Aurora's deck, Li Jiao watched the talks through a secure link. She turned to Rin. Well done, Commander. Your squadron's timely aid gave us the margin we needed. Rin bowed. Your leadership made it possible, Captain Zhao. Li smiled. Now it's time to rebuild. In the days that followed, blockade nodes powered down and were towed back to Earth's repair yards. Recon ships charted safe passages through former no-go zones. Pilots from all fleets exchanged greetings when docking at shared waypoints. Maya and Casey coordinated humanitarian missions to outlying colonies cut off during the blockade. On Earth, a ceremony was held at the old Space Command Center. President Vargas, Admiral Vega, Ambassador Reyes, and former Admiral Torvash, now a peace envoy, stood before a crowd of cheering citizens. Earth's flags flew alongside Orion and Phoenix banners. Vargas raised her hand. Today we celebrate. Not a victory of arms, but a triumph of unity. Together we face the Empire's might and turn foes into partners. Let this peace guide us as we reach for the stars. The crowd erupted in applause. Fireworks danced above the command tower, reflecting on the silver hull of the Aurora docked in the bay below. As night fell, Li stood on a balcony overlooking the festivities. Raj joined her, arms slung over her shoulder. Think they'll stick to the treaty? He asked quietly. Li nodded, watching the distant lights. They must. We showed them the strength of a united front. Now it's up to all of us to keep this promise, Raj smiled. To the future, then. Li raised her gaze to the heavens where stars sparkled like distant worlds waiting to be friend or foe. To the future, she agreed. And in that moment, Earth's people knew they had earned their place among the stars, locked no longer by fear, but freed by resolve.